I Want to Jump Like Dee Dee, with me, Giles Sibbald, is the music podcast that does music a bit differently. I'm talking to some incredible musicians, DJs and producers about how they use an experimental mindset to fuel their own creativity, pursue new challenges, overcome fears, bounce back from mistakes. So my guest today is a bass guitar maestro, punk rock and the blues, who's worked with Charlie Harper, Dani Wilde, Richie Ramone, Cockwomble, and of course, one of my favorites, the Ramonas. And check out her YouTube channel where she does an amazing cover of Skunk Anansi's I Will Break You. I was blown away. It's amazing. And it's a real pleasure to welcome Vicky Smith.
Thanks for having me.
Vicky, no problem at all. So last time we saw each other was just under a year ago. I think it was in London, wasn't it, when you were playing with the Ramonas?
Cool, was that only a year ago?
Only a year ago, I know. It feels like a lifetime, doesn't it?
It really does at the moment, yeah.
What's been happening? I mean, I kind of hate to sort of use COVID as the thing, but kind of what's been going on?
Yeah, well, that would have been the last tour, I think. Which ended in March last year, and then everything stopped in terms of the live gigs. But we've been pretty busy ourselves, writing for a new album. And lots of online videos and things like that, and interviews. So we've been pretty busy. It's just no live gigs.
No live stuff, yeah. So that's kind of like a real new way of working, isn't it? Doing stuff remotely. I guess.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, in one way, it's been good to have the chance to do that. In some ways, I would say, because I don't think we would have necessarily written as much as we have if we had just been carrying on as we were. So I think just having the time to be able to try different things has been quite good. But obviously at the same time we do miss the touring.
You do miss the live stuff, which is really the lifeblood, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's been interesting that kind of people finding different ways of working, and just kind of, I guess this is where we get kind of quite show our adaptability, how kind of open we are to sort of trying new things. I guess in this kind of case, we're sort of forced to do it almost. It's like, you have to adapt.
Yeah, I think it's like you embrace it, really. I mean, I think for me personally, it was actually a case of having a list of things that I did want to try and do. And, like you say, with my YouTube channel, I've always wanted to put more content on, but I've never really had the time to do it properly. So actually, just using this time to do that, something I'd have wanted to do before. And using new technology and that kind of thing as well.
Yeah. How did you find it? I mean, was it kind of experimental? Well, I guess it was experimental. You've done it in bits before, but not had the time to do it. And then this is really, kind of focusing on it again.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, obviously I do teach as well. So moving, like many people that do, moving all that online was for me, a completely new thing, because I'd never done that before. I'd always, done that face to face in person.
Yeah.
And I guess it's the same with interviews and things like that. We're often doing them, face to face with people at gigs. So actually, it's been really good learning loads of new stuff, I would say, actually. Yeah. I
mean, I don't know how you find, like Zoom and kind of interfaces like this, but I find them, I mean, they're great because, it gives you a solution, but it's kind of hard work after a while. I find them quite draining.
Same, yeah. If you spend a day on these meetings on Zoom, it's draining in a way. I mean, for me, I would say I'm very kind of practical in person. I like things physically in front of me, and even doing things on a computer, I've always, I guess, struggled with in terms of getting the satisfaction of doing the thing you're doing. But obviously it's a means to an end at the moment, and it is useful, very useful,
I mean, you've got like a lot of music industry experience, through the songwriting, touring, the live scene, different genres of music, kind of collaborations and the tuition as well. What do you feel that if you're sort of looking back, what has that given you? You in terms of your I don't know, like skills or kind of things that have really benefited you? What's
I think it's kind of, there's loads of things, isn't there? Obviously, progressing by, I guess, on one hand, by collaborating and working with other people, and even from a teaching point of view, helping other people, you're always learning yourself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of creative things, or especially in my experience with the industry, a lot of it is throwing yourself in at the deep end and kind of going with it and seeing what happens and being adaptable and all of that. So you're constantly learning, but you almost don't realize it until you have maybe a period of time like this where you can look back and reflect and go over things and think, wow, okay, that mountain of things that you've done and kind of got over and achieved, and it's been, things are up and down along the way, but you're always learning. So I think variety, I would say, always have said variety is key, because it keeps it interesting and it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. So I guess like in terms of sort of genres, I mean, like I said like at the start, the kind of the two main ones that seems to me that musical sort of genres that you're involved with have been sort of the punk scene and then blues. I guess a lot of people probably wouldn't put those together. How did that sort of happen for you?
Well, this is actually a really interesting point, because I remember, especially when I started doing the blues gigs. Actually, let's go back a bit. I suppose in terms of me playing and learning, the fundamental start of it is rock and roll for me. Yeah. Especially from a bass player point of view. Obviously, we know that crops up in all genres and has led to everything, but that's the thing that links it all for me. Yeah. So when I started doing the blues stuff, I was actually quite surprised at how close-minded the scene was, because when people kind of, I don't know, like found out I did other music, especially punk, it was like, ugh. And they totally didn't embrace it. And I was really shocked. And not everybody, but just kind of as a rough thing, that was the kind of vibe. And I was just really, really surprised. And then with the punk scene, I've experienced personally the total opposite, where people are just like, it's music. If it's that, if it's classical, if it's, rock, if it's, obviously some people like different things and like everything, but I think that was a lot more open. And I would say more so nowadays, because I'm talking 15, 20 years ago when I started doing I would say the blues thing people have expanded in terms of what I see at gigs and the banter I hear. I think actually people are more open-minded now. It might be to do with the industry, the music industry, I think. Yeah, because everything crosses over and you have to adapt and be
totally. I remember, think like from my own sort of experience, if I go back to when I was probably a teenager, when I kind of first got into music, and then it was the Ramones. That was my kind of first kind of life-changing kind of event, was getting into them. And then I became so I think kind of blinkered in my own outlook, that it was like sort of punk hardcore, and I really struggled to see anything out of that. And that I played the cello, right, when I was a kid, and I couldn't bring those two things together, so I gave that up. But also my just in terms of the genres that I listened to, I was like so close-minded, and I think it was probably sort of like Public Enemy coming along with their sort of first album that sort of started where I started to kind of change and sort of open up a little bit more. But I've definitely noticed a bit of a there's a closed-minded element amongst each sort of genre and each sort of music.
It's not always a bad thing though, because I remember right at the beginning of when I started in the Ramonas, that I was more closed to that, because I really wanted to hone in and focus on what was important about the Ramones. Yeah. And so I didn't want myself to almost get sidetracked. It was a conscious thing of not wanting to kind of let the other things in yet. because I wanted to be Dee Dee Ramone. I had to be, and I wanted to do that, and I had to, and you have to pinpoint, and it has to be, well, in my view, it has to be exactly like that. You've got to try and emulate everything. You're trying to be that, obviously. Not literally, because I'm not a bloke, but but in terms of all the things that are, I guess, what I would say were important, like, you know, like the downstrokes and the attitude, getting to the front of the stage, shouting, being off the wall, or, you know, your mannerism, everything like that that's important, it had to be focused on. And I couldn't, at the start, the way I did it, I couldn't let the other influences in a way.
Yeah, you were sort of so focused on that.
Yeah.
Like anything else, it's like, that doesn't matter. I just want to kind of concentrate on this.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about just kind of diving in and doing things and just doing it, you know, almost like that's what you've had to do. I mean, was that something that you learned, or is that something that you've had from a, you know, kind of early age, that mindset of just kind of going and doing?
I mean, I think there was one main turning point for me, especially in regards to music and that kind of way of working, is that at college I had a music teacher who was absolutely brilliant, and he was really good at the extracurricular stuff and not so good at the actual curriculum. So that was quite an interesting one. But we knew that. So we were aware of that. And he just basically, I think I'd only just started playing the bass. I played other instruments before, but I'd only just started playing the bass. And I didn't really read music for the bass that well. And he gave me the score to Guys and Dolls, the musical, and said, "Do you want to do it?" And I took it, and my first instinct was like, well, no, because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, take it away, have a look, and get back to me, you know, this week. And that was it. I took it away, and I went through it on my my lunch break. And that evening, I think I went home and I just started learning it.
Wow.
So, and I just thought, and then I did it, and I was like, I actually did it. And then from then on, I thought, well, you just got to do it, because, well, that's what happened. That was my experience. And it kind of worked. I mean, obviously it's not always like that, and sometimes you need help along the way, but there's nothing wrong with that if you need to ask questions, and these days refer to YouTube videos or something to kind of
or to our friend Google and stuff like that. I mean that's brilliant kind of like lesson for, you know, your sort of self-belief, isn't it? I mean, I guess the hard thing is that I find sometimes is reminding yourself, you know, kind of like when you get, you know, sort of fears and anxieties, you know, what you did. Like when I was sort of preparing this, you know, the idea of this sort of podcast, I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't, no, that's not me, you know. And you have to kind of have that self-belief, or reinforce those, I guess, sort of previous times when you've done things, you've achieved things, to kind of keep reminding yourself, you know, you can do it. No, why not? Other people do it, you do it.
Exactly. It's that thing, isn't it, of like, if you break it down and think, well, I thought that about that, and then it worked out, and I figured it out, and so obviously some things are harder than others, but the hardest thing is taking that leap, isn't it, into kind of starting something, isn't it?
Totally.
Whatever that is, you know,
whatever it is. And do you know, I don't know about you, but I mean, I always sort of feel better once I've done it, you know, sort of taken that first step. You start to think, oh, what was I fussing about?
And you have to remember that feeling, because that is what helps the next time, I think. I mean, it is also about your frame of mind, isn't it, as well?
There's a lot in that.
You have to remember, you know, remind yourself
of that. I think, I mean, collaborations as well. I think, like last year, you know, probably, you know, because of the situation that we were all in, probably saw a lot more, you know, kind of cross genre collaborations and things like that. But I mean, if you look back, you look kind of way back, they've still happened. What's your kind of take on collaborations?
I mean, I'm all for that kind of thing because it brings, it brings people together. You can learn a lot from other people, working with other people, because you might see something one way and they'll say, well, I see this, or I hear this. Oh, but I heard that influence. Or and I think it really just opens your mind and kind of up to how other people might think or perceive things. I
mean, I guess collaborations are experimental, from the off, even if you have within the same kind of genre or whatever, because you're working with people that you that you might not have worked with before. You're finding out their personality, their way of working and stuff like that. But I mean, even those, I think, kind of going way back, I kind of like the Run DMC Aerosmith one, which, nobody would have expected at that kind of time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Became one of the biggest ones, that we've known.
Yeah.
I think they can be kind of quite exciting.
I mean, because I'm hoping that you're going to be playing cello on the Ramonas song. And why not?
Oh, what have I let myself into?
But that kind of thing is really interesting, because I recently recorded some bass for Dani Wilde on a blues track that I was recording, and I did it remotely. Normally we'd work together, we would have taught the song, and she just sent it to me with a kind of influence idea of what she wanted it to be, and I put the bass down and sent it, and then it was nothing like what she expected, whereas I heard it as, oh, this is what it would be, isn't it? This is how it would sound. And then she said, oh, but it's totally changed the song in her mind. So I think those kind of things I just find really interesting.
I think I mean, having the, putting people together with different influences, different kind of mindsets, and then kind of seeing what sort of comes out of it. I think that's really kind of exciting. You can get some really sort of interesting stuff happening.
Definitely.
With kind of social media and competition and how you kind of differentiate yourself. It's, I think for me it seems really hard to differentiate and sort of stand out. How do you approach that?
I think the easiest way to do it, obviously I'm not saying this always works, but the way I would say is to basically be yourself. Because I believe that everyone is actually unique, and if you and you can have a lot of different influences and different skills and different ways of doing things, and as soon as you try to like fully be or copy something else, I don't think that works. You can be influenced by other ways and other things, but I think you have to do it your way and just be who you are, and that will come through. I believe anyway.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I see that, where there is the almost like desire to stand out, it's almost becomes, kind of very sort of similar variations on a theme. It's not really differentiating. It's almost like you're trying to be different, but you've got an eye on what everybody else is doing. You sort of lose that authenticity and that, kind of be you.
It's hard, isn't it, to not get caught up in that? I think the main thing to be aware of is what is working for you as well, isn't it? What people are reacting to, and focus it on that rather than, oh, so and so got however many likes on that, and maybe I could do that. But actually, that same person could do the same thing again and it might not work. So I think you've got to just be open to looking, you know, how people interact with what you're doing, and work with the best assets you've got, I suppose.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think you're right. I think there is that. You know, kind of like almost like, you know, people are sort of using, or maybe it's the kind of like platforms that are sort of pushing on this this thing of likes and comments as the kind of barometer of kind of success. And last year, I mean, you know, because you're not allowed to go out and play gigs, which is, you know, a great measure of, you know, kind of what your perception is amongst the public. When you can't do that, it's kind of like, okay, I can't use that measure now. What else have I got?
Yeah, it's what else you've got, or what can you adapt to make work in this way, and, you know, the online way. Or yeah, what other skills have you got that can be used that are similar, and, you know, to work together, I suppose.
Yeah. How did you find, like, with doing some of you, just talking about your tuition now? You obviously had to do that online, remotely this year. How did your clients sort of react to that? How did they sort of respond?
I mean, most of the people that were with me already were really up for continuing and trying the online thing. So obviously, there are some practical things if you haven't got good internet and things like that. So that stops some people, or they're not very good on computers. They, you know, can find it hard, or you know, some people just cannot do the screen thing. But most people, in my experience, are actually happy to give it a go and find the way that works for them, you know. And actually, what I've noticed more recently is that I found it hard to get new students, maybe last year. But now I think, because this has been going on so long, people are just more willing to try this now.
Yeah.
Because they know it's the only way.
It's the only way.
It's like, do you want to learn, or do you not? Or do you want to have a go at doing it this way?
Do you want to have a go at doing it?
Yeah, and I think that's actually quite an interesting thing, because I think I've often found myself in those positions before, where it's like, well, do you want to get this done and finished or not? You know, do you want your album released this year, or do you never want it released at all? You know, and you have to find that way, and there might be a few compromises, but if you want it done and you want it to happen,
this is what you've got to do.
This is what you're working with.
Yeah. When you go back to like sort of songwriting, how do you like when you're kind of creating your ideas and the, you know, the sort of structure of the songs and then sort of playing them, you know, one thing that I guess sometimes, that not in terms of sort of songwriting, but other things for me, you know, that if things don't work, you know, the kind of like, oh God, it doesn't work, you know, the sort of the frustration that you have to go back to the drawing board. That's kind of part and parcel of what happens, isn't it? How do you kind of deal with that? How do you kind of bounce back from those sort of times, whether either you get a block or things don't work out as you plan?
I think for me, you have to keep in mind the end goal, in a way, because if that thing that comes up always stops you getting there, then that's no good for a start. And then the second thing for me is being naturally a bit of a perfectionist. You want to get there, but you want it to be the best it can be.
Yeah.
So if that means, you know, you've got halfway through and it's just not going the right way, or you've put some structure of a song together. Like I've been working on a song recently that I've rewritten it about, I don't know, 10, 15 times. It's gone through so many changes. But it had to get to where it is, and it's still not finished, but to get to where it's going to get to, you know, and what I've kind of loosely got in mind. And it's a bit unconventional for what it's supposed to be, and maybe that's why it hasn't actually, you know, just happened just like that, because it's a bit different. But I think, you've got to be open to that kind of thing.
Yeah, to that.
You know, if to going backwards.
Mm. How do you kind of keep your mindset sort of focused on your kind of creativity? You know, kind of creating, you know, kind of new songs, or I know you've been doing some drawing as well.
Yeah, that's another one where what you just said about going backwards all the time. That's happened a lot with the drawing, and that's actually what often puts me off, because I don't normally have the time. That's another thing, having the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Deadlines and creativity, and that doesn't always go together, does it? Deadlines. But I think because I've had more time now, I've been drawing a lot, and I've been going through loads and loads of sheets of paper, you know, creating things. But what was your next question? Sorry.
It's like how do you kind of keep your sort of mindset sort of focused on your creativity?
I think for me, the key is having a list.
Yeah.
Writing things down and having lists, voice memos, all of those kind of things, because I'm normally so busy that you know, I can't keep it all in my head. It is in there somewhere, but I might, when at the moment I need it, I can't find it.
You can't find it.
I've got to have it on the list. Because then I also always know that you're not always going to be in the mood to do, you know, that song or that drawing or whatever. But if you've got the idea and the notes there, there's always there to refer to. And you know, you might come up with something. I often come up with things when I'm driving along in the car. So as soon as I stop, I'm writing it down and putting on voice memo, because I can't work on it there and then, because it's you know, I'm doing something else. So it's having that list and knowing it's there to refer to, that like, oh, I feel like I want to, you know, create a song today. Let's refer to the list or start something new.
No,
it's never ending. Really,
it's never ending. Yeah, I mean, I mean that, you know, that kind of idea of doing things as you you know, doing them when you kind of feel you're in the right kind of frame of mind, you know, you're in the right environment to sort of do it. I mean, I started doing some charcoal sketching when I got involved with the arts lab with youth, and I'd love doing it, and it can be the most frustrating thing on this planet. And I think, oh my God, I've just spent like an hour doing this, and then I've just fucked it up. And it's like, oh, I can't believe it, you know. And you know, then having the kind of strength to pick it up again after having those kind of knocks, kind of hard sometimes.
It is, yeah. Obviously, it's not always easy, is it? You know, no. Sometimes you're just totally not in the mood, and you know, the amount of times lately I've been working on a drawing of something, and I'm nearly there, and then something has gone wrong, or I've done something on it that I don't like. So I have to do the whole thing again, because that's how I'm working.
Is that the perfectionist coming out again?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Because then you look at it a different day and think, I can't tell the difference.
Yeah, no, that's really true, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you? I mean, do you, as you kind of get older, do you find yourself taking more or less risks with, you know, either the type of drawing that you do and the type of music that you're creating? How does? Yeah,
I think there's more variety in things, and more risks, I would say, as I've got older, definitely.
Do you enjoy taking them?
I think you learn that actually it's all right sometimes to kind of do that, get it wrong or get it right, you know? But not be so worried about it going wrong, or you getting it wrong, or whatever the situation is. Or also, you know, you've got more experience of that, and also you may have more experience of seeing others take the same risks or whatever.
And how did like within the, because I think, you know, another kind of important thing, you know, when you're kind of going through that is, you know, in the band is your bandmates as well, you know, and how they and I guess like the people, generally the people that you sort of surround yourself with, you know, kind of keeping out as many negative influences as you can, and then surrounding yourself with the people that, you know, support you in kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's really important, I think, because negativity for me is a killer for a start.
Yeah,
and that just halts everything. It doesn't really achieve anything.
Actually, doesn't it?
You know, being realistic is different. Some people can get the two confused. If you're realistic or just being negative. But I think, yeah, you've got to be in the right environment, and definitely, you know, surround yourself with the right people who have the right attitude. You don't have to agree on everything, you know, but you need to be able to have a discussion. I think especially these days, a lot of things have gone just black and white. You're with me or you're not. It's yes or no.
That's very true,
right,
isn't
or
it?
it's wrong. Whereas I don't believe in that at all. I think I'm quite open to hearing why someone wants to work that or wants to change that on that, or, you know, and then just figuring out why.
I think, like you said earlier, you know, kind of music is completely the opposite of that kind of black and white, that sort of definition. You know, things merge, things kind of overlap. You know, and that's the kind of the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think we really had a surprise when we released the Ramonas album, the First World Problems one, because I guess 9 out of 10 reviews were, this is not what I was expecting, because people were maybe just expecting a Ramones, not a Ramones cover album, but, you know, a Ramone sounding record. Whereas, you know, obviously we love the Ramones like you do, but that you're not just that. Even the Ramones weren't. You know, look at what else each member of the Ramones did and was influenced by, and obviously they all had different influences as well. But you know, we're not just that. I think people sometimes just look and think, oh, you just do that. Well, no, actually, that's a really good
point. Really good point. Yeah,
we have, between us, we've got, you know, a ridiculous number of influences and things we're into, and they're not always the same. Some match up, some don't, and that's why the albums and the songs kind of come out how they do, you know.
Yeah, exactly. No, so that's a really good point about you know, about what people you know, perhaps expected, you know, what and sort of what they got. You know, for me, that was just such like an excellent, you know, kind of debut of the original songwriting that sort of came out, and it was almost like that's a statement. Yeah, we've done, you know, a lot of you know, kind of live shows with kind of cover versions. This is us. This is who we are. And like, going back to your point that you made earlier about, you know, kind of being yourself. You want to be, and I thought, you know, I think the last time I saw you play Rebellion, which was what, 2019, wasn't it now?
Yeah.
I think. When you did your, like, the originals set, that was the time that I really thought that you as a band looked like this was you. It was almost like, you know, this is us playing our kind of, and you looked so happy doing it. Honestly, it was so great to see that.
Yeah, I think when we separate it, you know, obviously there's a difference. But I find that whole thing really interesting, kind of, you know, the reaction from people. And I think we were actually, in one way, really nervous about doing that, you know, doing the originals venture. And we knew it was different, you know, we knew it wasn't exactly just Ramones. But we took the attitude of, we're doing it because we want to achieve this, we want to get this done, but we don't, you know, whether it's good feedback or not, we're happy that we've just done it. And then obviously something even better than that happened, and people did actually like it. So
I mean, for me, that sounds like it's of the kind of steps that you can take and going for it. That's the, you know, kind of one of the biggest ones that you can do.
Yeah.
You know, going from a band that you know is perceived by a lot as being, you know, the sort of the the Ramones band into this is us. This is what we are, and this is what we want to do, and we're just going to do it. I mean that takes a really kind of, I think that takes a really kind of strong mindset to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it took us long enough to get there, but we got there in the end.
Well, sort of humming and hawing. It's good, you can sort of debate it over a few years.
But the timing was right, it wasn't right.
Yeah.
There was a time for it to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you do, I mean, just to kind of finish off, Vicky, I mean, if you're going to give, people listening any advice to, if within their life they feel that they need some change, they need to do something either different or just, whether it's kind of small or big, what would you say to them?
I mean, you've got to work out why you want to do what you want to do to start with. I think you've got to know the reasons, and then basically not really be scared of failing in a way or getting things wrong, because who's to say what's right and wrong? I know there are places for rules and things, but generally just having a go and taking little steps. I think that's the key to it, really.
Like me with the cello.
Observing along the way, That's going to come back, don't worry.
It's going to come back. One day.
One day, yeah.
You might need to give me the odd sort of nudge or two.
But surround yourself by positive people.
By positive people. That's why I'm talking to you about it.
Spread that as well, yourself. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much, Vicky. It's been a real pleasure, and thanks for taking the time to have a chat.
No, it's great to be on the show. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the show, and I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you'll tune in for the next episode. In the meantime, it would be really awesome if you could rate and review the show, and also share it with any friends who you think might enjoy it.